Welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique, the podcast series where we chat about shit with inspirational people from all walks of life. Today, we are joined by the wonderful and inspiring Richard Davies. We hope you enjoy this conversation. So, Richard, welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So pleased to have you here. Thank you.
No, thank you.
So, today, we're going to talk about life with stage 4 bowel cancer. And we're going to cover a lot of kind of different things within that, and particularly your own experience. So I really appreciate you being here and letting us in on your story.
No problem.
So kind of kick things off, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself and also how you came to find out about your diagnosis?
Yeah. As you said, my name's Richard. I'm 36. And yeah, in terms of the diagnosis, it came on very rapidly, the sort of the discovery that this was happening. I remember it really, really clearly. So I was walking across my front garden and I felt like a rumble in my stomach, followed by sort of a bit of a stabbing pain. And it just passed as quickly as it came on. Happened again the following day and the day after. And this then escalated into starting off as a very, very mild sort of discomfort. It escalated into, rolling around on the floor in agony. So went to A&E. It was really, really tricky to get to a point of jumping the hoops that you need to jump through to get through the different stages of A&E, triage, and then a doctor actually giving you a physical exam. So the first day I went to A&E, I was just discharged, told I had constipation and just to go home basically. And then I woke up in the middle of the night that night and it was worse than ever. The following morning, it was complete agony. So I went back and this time sort of insisted a little bit more strongly that we need to do some sort of investigation here. They finally agreed to do a CT scan. And the CT scan showed a significant find, as they called it. And then that was it, really. I was kind of strapped into a roller coaster from there that I've sort of been on for the last 9 months. A colonoscopy followed the CT scan, and the colonoscopy confirmed cancer. A large tumour was found in my colon with the colonoscopy. At that point, the assumption was that it was stage 2. That the tumour was confined to the colon. The camera couldn't get past it and have a backward view of it. We could only sort of see up against it. And it looked as if it was confined to the colon. So surgery was booked and it was going to be relatively straightforward surgery. Cut the tumour out, stitch the colon back together, maybe some mop-up chemo, maybe not, depending on how the surgery went. But once I was under the knife and they managed to get in and actually have a physical look, they discovered that it was everywhere. 25 plus tumours on my peritoneal, deposits in my pelvis. The tumour in my colon that they thought was confined to the colon had broken out and burst through the colon wall. It was in my abdomen. It was another deposit further around my colon, which we couldn't see. So it was like an explosion of cancer that they weren't anticipating when they went in to take the tumour out. And following that has just been, like I say, a roller coaster of our entire lives have been dominated by cancer, chemotherapies, and I've had some really, really nasty infections, back-to-back infections, sepsis, my bowel perforated. So that was it really, from walking across the front garden and having a bit of a rumble in my stomach to the colonoscopy was probably about a fortnight in total. It was a week from my stomach rumbling to the significant find. Colonoscopy followed thereafter. And so from being 36 years old, running my businesses, we were building a house. I was building a house for my wife and for myself. So the day of the colonoscopy, we actually took the roof off of our house in the morning, and then I found out it was cancer in the afternoon. So I was just living like any other 36-year-old, not caring the world, thought I was bulletproof. And then within 2 weeks, I had stage 4 terminal cancer. Yeah.
I've seen that you've posted quite a bit about stage 3 and stage 4 cancer of the bowel, and how most of the time it's found at that stage and not earlier, because people don't know necessarily what to look for. What are the early signs and symptoms, and does everybody get them? Like, is it possible to detect it early?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I wouldn't say that it's mostly detected stage 3 and 4, but the detection is still there predominantly stage 1 and 2, which is great. But unfortunately, there is a whole raft of people, tens of thousands of people in the UK, if not more, who do unfortunately have a late detection, stage 4. And the signs are different for everybody. So the main ones is obviously blood in your stool. That's something that if that happens to you, then just get it checked out. Don't ignore it. Bloating, fatigue, unexplained weight loss, and of course stomach pains. They're the sort of the 5 main ones that you need to keep an eye on. Any changes, I would say, to how you feel. If you feel that something's not quite right, you're having pains, or as I say, you're feeling more tired in the afternoons, and certainly any extreme stomach pain, just get it checked out. I had blood in my stool from the age of 18, really, on and off, and must have gone to the GP at least a dozen times, if not more, to say, look, there's blood in when I'm going to the toilet, there's blood. And every single time I was just told I was too young for it to be anything sinister. Probably piles, hemorrhoids was kind of, they didn't really investigate it. There was no familial history in my family of bowel cancer, so I'm patient 0 for my family. So coupled with it not being in my family and my young age, it was just dismissed. Now, whether I had cancer then, it's highly unlikely when I was 18. But the blood in the stool could very well have been a precursor, could have been polyps, could have been some kind of irritable issue in my bowel that was the precursor for the cancer. But for me, there was no, as I said, there were these signs of blood in the stool through my 20s. But in terms of fatigue, I didn't really have any of that. There was no bloating. It was just no fatigue. It was just this pain that came on and just escalated. Because basically what happened is the tumour had been growing, and it eventually grew to a stage where it totally blocked the bowel.
And that was the intense pain that you were feeling.
And then all of a sudden, if I was eating and it wasn't being able to get through, it eventually totally sealed shut my colon, and that was when I started to experience the extreme pain.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
No, I'm in a pretty good place with it mentally. I've never sort of thought, why me? Or I've never been angry or resentful about it. It has to land on somebody, and it's landed on me. So yeah.
I was going to say to you that I've kind of been looking at your videos on social media, the things that you've spoken about, and some press coverage, and it feels like you've really dedicated yourself to helping others since you've had your diagnosis, and you do come across really full of light and positivity. And I wondered how you stay positive I'm imagining there are some days that are perhaps darker or tougher than others. How do you kind of get through that and manage that?
There definitely are dark days. That they are. I mean, admittedly for myself, and this is different for everybody, my dark days are few and far between. I've always been a positive, optimistic person by nature. That's just always how I've been. I've had quite a lot of previous traumas before the cancer, and obstacles and hurdles that I've had to climb over and navigate. And I think it just set me in good stead to be able to deal with this sort of this huge knock of stage 4 cancer. But I think I said right at the beginning, I think I did a little podcast right at the start when we had like 200 followers or whatever. And I think I said that the cancer is almost certainly going to bring me to my knees physically. There's not much, potentially, seemingly not a huge amount I can do about that. But the chances of it bringing me to my knees mentally is 0. It just won't ever happen. I just choose to remain positive about it and I've chosen to use the time that I've had since diagnosis, which is coming on for 9 or 10 months now. We're approaching the year anniversary of diagnosis. I've just decided that I'm going to use that time. I basically set myself a goal of I want to achieve more with cancer than what I achieved before I got cancer. So all the things that I've achieved in my life, great, but I want to try and match those 35, 36 years of achievement in the time that I have with cancer. So yeah, we set up the Instagram page. Had no idea that there was a cancer community on Instagram. Had no idea that it would gain any traction. Like I say, 200-300 followers to start, and we don't have a huge following. But by no means,
Got a pretty big one.
Yeah, the community that we've got is fantastic, and the people that follow me and I follow them, and we've got a wonderful community there on the Bowel page, and I love it. And life would have been bleaker without the support of these people. But yeah, I just set it up, and we sort of got going with it, and it gradually, organically grew. And yeah, we've touched on all sorts of topics across the last 9 or 10 months. We had the campaign trying to get Avastin funded. Unfortunately, the government didn't seem to be particularly interested. We got a response, but it was a stop response. So that was kind of the first campaign was trying to get Avastin funded, which isn't funded on the NHS.
Yeah.
And then it just organically grew, and we started doing other things, and yeah, as it's gone along, I've had sort of new ideas and things that I've sort of turned my hand to that have seemed to resonate with people, and it's just kind of organically grown from there, really.
I want to touch on some of those things that you've done, but just before I do, I'm aware that some people listening to this podcast might not know what Avastin is, and I wondered if you could just explain that for people.
Okay. Yeah. So Avastin is a drug that is first line in Europe, the States, Australia. It's provided, and it's a recognised, really, really good treatment for cancer. Unfortunately, if you've got the KRAS mutation, which I have, which is a particularly aggressive form of cancer, you don't qualify for immunotherapy, and there's lots of different chemotherapies that are just ineffective on your cancer. They just don't work. Avastin is one of the ones that do work. It basically targets the capillaries in the blood, and it basically just chokes off the tumour. It kills off the blood supply to the tumour, which in theory helps to kill the tumour, or at least stabilise it. Unfortunately, in the UK, this is not funded by the NHS. They did a study 15 years ago on a selected group of 70-year-olds and found that it only increased life by 12 weeks. And no further studies have been done on people in their 20s, 30s, the difference it can make. Avastin has extended life by 5, 6, 7 years in people in their 20s and 30s. It's a hugely beneficial drug, but yeah, it's not funded. And if you are 6'2", 15 stone, like I am, it's done on weight. It's £2,500 a round to fund it yourself. And you have 2 rounds a month. So if you want to fund Avastin for yourself, it's £5,000 a month. Sliding scale, it's like I say, it's all done on how much you weigh. So somebody who's 9, 10 stone, it'd be a bit cheaper, but yeah, for me it was £2,500 a round. Yeah.
And I understand that you then crowd funded to manage to do that, or
no. So when I got sick, good friend of mine, it really, really hit him hard, and he wanted to do whatever he could to help. He said he would donate an organ, but none of that was obviously feasible. So he decided to set up a GoFundMe page, and also he organised a gala, like a dinner and dance event for close friends and family, and we raised a lot of money. But the higher the amount of money that we raised, as it grew, I became more and more uncomfortable with taking any of that money for myself. So I actually didn't. So all my treatment I've funded myself. The money that was raised for me has been kept to one side, and I've given away about 10 grand of that so far to things that touch me or things that resonate with me. So a couple of children in my community, people that I know, friends of unfortunately diagnosed with cancer. So we used some of that money to bucket list a few items for them. We did a giveaway before Christmas, which I actually funded the giveaway before Christmas myself. That came from I didn't use the funds raised. The funds raised are largely intact, apart from about 10 grand or so that I've given away.
What an amazing friend! And
oh, amazing! Yeah, incredible. Lee, my pal Lee. He just a huge call to arms when I got ill, and hundreds, not thousands of arms reached out to catch me as I fell, and all this money was raised, and I just couldn't use it. I couldn't use it for myself. It just didn't feel right, and not one solitary penny has been used for anything other than seeking out other people who are sick and just trying to help them out as we've gone along. So yeah.
You mentioned earlier your wife.
Yes.
Am I right in thinking you were quite recently married when you got this diagnosis?
Well, no, it came after. So when I went in for the surgery that discovered it was stage 4, they gave me a stoma. So I had to stay in hospital for 5 days to recover from that surgery and get used to the stoma and change my colostomy bag. And I was discharged from the hospital on the Thursday, and I married Lisa on the Monday.
I've seen those pictures. You look amazing.
It was an amazing day. It was
Wouldn't have known you just had an operation.
Yeah, so I was 5. So I was 5 days from the operation on the Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So yeah, 9 days out from the operation, we got married. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
and how, obviously, you were a really strong unit and team before any of this happened. You can clearly see that. How did you process this together? What would you say to someone else who's in perhaps a similar situation?
There's no denying that it's tough, and I'm incredibly blessed that I have this sort of positive outlook. Lisa is very tough woman, very formidable woman. But of course, it doesn't matter how tough you are. If your partner gets sick, it's very, very difficult. And the only real tears that we have in our household is when we discuss life after I've gone, and how that's going to look for Lisa. But in terms of how to deal with it, I mean, it's how do you deal with something like this? You just hold each other as close as you can, hold on to each other as tightly as possible. And she's been incredible. I mean, I couldn't have done any of this without her, none of it at all. I would have probably thrown the towel in months and months ago. She's just been an incredible pillar of consistent support, as is her family, as is my family. But how do you process it as a young couple, just trying to sort of carve out a niche for yourself in life and trying to make your way? It's difficult, but we are of the mindset now where every day that's a healthy day is a good day. We take one day at a time. If when we're in bed at the end of the day, it's been a good, healthy, positive, fun day, then that's a tick. And we're just going to keep on having those one days until I can't anymore. And that's how we're looking at it. That's how we're dealing with it. But yeah, I mean, she is obviously, if she dwells on it or if we do get into talking about it, then it's incredibly difficult for her.
Of course.
She was single for 10 years before she met me. She just couldn't find anybody that she liked. And she's obviously a stunning woman. And it wasn't a lack of offer. She just couldn't find anyone that she connected with. So to finally find someone that she wanted to marry and spend her time with, it feels very, very cruel. And it is incredibly cruel for her, especially. But we're just living each day. We're trying to do fun things. We love each other with much more intent now than we did before. It's easy to take people for granted. It's easy to take your life for granted. But having this guillotine hanging over my head has certainly led us to live with intent, love with intent, and we have more date nights than we've ever had before, and we spend more time together, and we value what we have more now than ever before.
That's incredibly moving, as I'm sure you can tell, and beautiful and inspiring. And I'm really glad that you found a love like that. It's very special.
Yeah, very lucky, very, very lucky.
I'm going to slightly pivot here to online anonymous abuse, which I have seen you post a lot about recently, and I found extremely upsetting and made me extremely angry to watch. Would you mind just sharing with people that are listening what's happened recently and what you've chosen to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give too much oxygen to the actual catalyst for what we're trying to do. It's basically people who anonymously sign up to online accounts and then use those accounts to anonymously abuse people. We all know that it happens. We all know that it's a cancer in our society. We saw it with Caroline Flack, who was the British press and online trolls drove her to what happened there. Sadly, she decided that taking her own life was the easiest way out to get away from the abuse. And as I say, not just online trolling, but the press as well who went for her. But we know it exists. We think that it's contained to celebrities. We think it's contained to people who we feel maybe don't care because they're celebrities, which is obviously complete nonsense. Everybody cares when people are horrible to them. What I didn't realise was that there was a dedicated space online to trolling people with cancer, which even now saying it seems like the most absurd, heinous, bizarre phenomenon you could imagine, but unfortunately it does exist. I'm not the only target. Lots of my friends that I've made in the community with cancer have also been targeted by this horrible abuse, anonymous abuse online. And it brings people to their knees. It drives people into the mud. People's mental healths have deteriorated or are deteriorating on the back of this. I've certainly very much come to their attention over the last 6 to 8 months, and it's relentless. It's relentless trolling, relentless abuse, and I mean, how do you understand it? How do you get your head around it? I don't know, but it exists. It's out there, and unfortunately, it's something that is causing a lot of pain to a lot of people, whilst the people that are causing that pain remain anonymous in their tea breaks. They're on there tapping away and trying to destroy people and ruin people's lives, which just work that one out. I don't know.
I'm absolutely dumbfounded as to why anybody would ever want to do that to another person.
It's tricky because when it's been happening to me for 6 months, 8 months, and I've completely ignored it. Completely didn't give it any oxygen whatsoever. But a friend of mine in the cancer community was also alongside me getting really badly abused online. And she broke ranks, she broke cover, and she posted about it. She was in tears, saying that, this is really, really negatively affecting me. And I just couldn't I couldn't let her put her head above the parapet. Because, of course, when you post anything, if you go onto your Instagram and say, this is happening to me, it then becomes a feeding frenzy. They love it. They think it's absolutely amazing that they've been recognised, and the abuse actually doesn't reduce, it gets worse. And I knew that this was about to happen to my friend, that putting her head above the parapet meant that it was going to be attacked even worse. And I just couldn't, to be silent in that situation was to be complicit in it, and I just couldn't stay silent about it, whereas I vowed never to give them even 1 second of airtime. I couldn't leave her just twisting in the wind on her own, so I decided to say something about it. I posted a lot of the comments that had been made about me, and of course thousands of people absolutely horrified that this was happening.
It is horrifying.
Yeah, some of it, and a lot of the really bad stuff I didn't actually post. They've gone after Lisa. It's absolutely abhorrent. But in the speaking about it and in the casting light onto it, I decided that I was then going to actually try and find out who some of these people were, and I managed to do that. And one of the people actually lives local to me. I managed to find out who she was, and incredibly, I've received apologies from 4 or 5 of these trolls who have messaged me directly to say that they're really sorry, they got sucked in, they've deleted their account on this trolling website, they won't do it again, and they realise the impact of what they've done. So it was a massive, massive win. And on the thread that's dedicated to me, at least a dozen regular contributors have stopped. They've vanished. They're not doing it anymore. And as I say, I've received apologies from a number of these people. And what became apparent, what became clear, was that these trolls or these contributors to this site were struggling themselves in a really bad way. A lot of them have cancer themselves. A lot of them have very, very difficult lives, potentially empty lives, no real support network. And I went from being very, very angry to very, very empathetic for what was going on. And the guys that have apologised to me, I'm in regular contact with them. We chat and try and have some sort of conversation going where I can try and provide some sort of support, make them feel like they're not alone so they don't get sucked back into it. And it just turned out that the people who congregate online and tear people to shreds are going through a lot of stuff themselves, because a happy, content, reasonable person doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And to be able to go from being very, very angry about it to actually gaining some sort of understanding and some empathy for what was driving it changed everything for me. The anger was gone, the rage was gone, and it just became a very, very hesitant to use the word. I feel incredibly sorry for these people because I don't want to be patronising, but to sit at a computer or on your phone tearing women, young adults to shreds who have got cancer, something's got to be really going on for you to do that. And I had multiple messages saying, don't fall for it, don't be kind, don't try and understand these people because you can't understand them, they're evil. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And the few that I've managed to speak to has just shown me that these people really need probably an arm around them. Some of them are nasty to the core. Some of them you'll never reach.
Inevitably, that will be the case.
Some of them you'll never get through to, and they will never understand. They have no self-awareness. They're just nasty, nasty people. But I would say a lot of them are just unhappy. And a lot of them have very, very empty lives that's really just to be pitied more than to be angry about. Is something to just really feel sorry for. I mean, who does it? Who sits about doing this? It's certainly not someone in a happy marriage. It's certainly not somebody with a happy home life. It's certainly not someone with a good support network. It's lost, unhappy, miserable people that do this. And I just felt an arm round the shoulder of the ones that I managed to break through to, managed to start a conversation with has worked a lot better than trying to expose them and, whatever. It felt that I was achieving more by having empathy than by being angry.
Yeah, I think the level of empathy you're able to have and the kindness that you have is lucky for them. And I'm pleased for them that they managed to get into contact with you and got that kind of response versus what I can imagine most people would have the capacity to deal with, especially when they were so ill. And I agree with you. I understand that people who are happy don't come for other people. That doesn't happen. But I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I still think you should be accountable for your actions and you shouldn't be bringing people down.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a very, very fine line to tread. There've been times in my life where I've messed up something or done something I shouldn't have done, and I really needed an arm around me or somebody to say, look, you've really messed up here, but let's try and find a way forward. And oftentimes I didn't have that. So if I can do that, if I can somehow give someone an olive branch when all hope for them seems lost or not there, then I just feel as if unfortunately I've got the capacity to be able to do it. I can't stay mad. I can't stay angry. And when I realised that one or two of these people, are going through shit themselves, I couldn't carry on with the crusade of trying to destroy these people. And as I say, there's something you'll never get through to. And whilst I don't go on this site anymore, people do inevitably message me saying it's still going on. And as I say, there's certain people that you'll never get through to. They're nasty to their core. They're nasty by nature. They're just who they are, and you can't change it. But we've managed to change. Like I said, I've had 3 or 4 direct apologies. At least a dozen people who did post on there now don't. So we have affected some change, and even if it's just a small change, it's better than nothing.
100%. I think you're incredible. Can you tell me a bit about Tittle, which is, I guess, the polar opposite of what we've just been talking about?
Yeah. So obviously, tittle tattle is the phrase, isn't it? So I decided that So everything for me is almost a little bit about legacy. It's about what I can leave. Obviously built the house for Lisa, writing a book. Tittle.uk is a website that I've developed that is ready for launch pretty much. We're just testing it at the moment, make sure there's not too many bugs in there and making sure we can moderate it and keep in control a little bit in terms of the nature of the discussions on there. But yeah, it's going to be a website which is the polar opposite to trolling. It's going to be about lifting people up, spreading kindness, spreading positivity, sharing good news days. We've had all sorts of ideas from my followers of threads that they'd like to see on there: parenting wins, dealing with diagnosis, partner of somebody who's sick. And we're just really hoping to create an online space where people can go and talk positively about things, share their wins, also provide a shoulder and an arm around people who are having a tough time, and just try and create a safe space online where we can promote, independent businesses or film and book recommendations or cooking recipes, whatever it may be, just to try and create a space online where you feel safe, where you can go and get a bit of a lift rather than being dragged down. And of course, human nature is that to be compelled to go and type something, it's normally a negative emotion that compels you. So I would say most people would leave a negative review on a restaurant than bother to leave a positive one. So I don't expect this website to be particularly popular, and I don't expect it to be, hundreds of people on there. But if we can just even have one or two people on there sharing positivity, then that would be great. I don't expect it to be anything particularly, as I say, particularly popular. I don't expect there to be huge amounts of traffic. But if I can leave behind an online space where if somebody's struggling, they can go on there and speak to somebody or chat away with somebody or go on a forum or a thread, and they come away from it feeling a little bit lighter or a little bit happier, or equally they've gone on there and shared something good that's happened to them, then if I can leave that space behind out there in the ether where people can log on and use, then that's job done. It's never ever been about trying to create a rival to any other website. It's just about leaving a space where people can go on and share positivity rather than negativity. That's all it is, really.
I absolutely love that. And I have a feeling it is going to take off. And I've seen some of your ambassadors who are incredible people as well, who all share that, I feel, that ethos of positivity, but also really trying to sort of be there for the community and help kind of bring each other back up. So definitely. I can see the kinds of people that are going to be compelled to be in this space. And I really do think it'll be wonderful.
Hope so. Hopefully. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
You mentioned your book.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Will you give us a little bit of inside information about it?
Yes, yeah. So it's a really, really tricky one. Not just the writing. The writing of the book has actually come quite easy. It hasn't been a struggle at all. I'm up to 45,000 words now. For a 300-page hardback, you need 65,000. So I've got 20,000 to go. So I should be able to knock those 20,000 off pretty quick. It's complicated in actually getting the book published and getting it out there. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it. I was in discussions with two publishers in the traditional sense. The problem with traditional publishing is it moves at an incredibly glacial pace. So going down that route would have meant that I wouldn't see the book in print for 18 months, maybe even 2 years. And of course, I don't have the time for that. So what I did was, one of the publishers that wanted to do it the traditional route, we managed to negotiate kind of like a hybrid deal. Whereby they do all the marketing, they do all the proofreading, the copy, the edit, they convert it to an audio book, they convert it to Kindle, all the things that a traditional publisher would do. But I'm going to pay for the printing side of it. So I'm going to print the books myself, which means I can jump the queue, basically. I can just skip straight to the queue. As soon as the book is finished, it can go into, once it's had the proofreading and the edit, it can go straight into print. And this also gave me control about what was in the book. I didn't have to make any concessions about what I was including, what I wasn't going to include. So it's a hybrid deal. It's a cross between traditional publishing and basically jumping the queue to actually print the tangible copies myself. But it'll be available on Amazon, WH Smith's, Waterstones, Gardeners. It'll also be available through my Instagram page, Balbo. You can just message me and say I want a copy of the book, and I'll just post you one. So yeah, it's really cool.
Can anyone pre-order?
Sorry?
Can anyone pre-order?
Yeah, so I've put out the feelers for pre-order. I've had 2,000 commitments to buy already, which is insane.
Amazing.
So I'm just working with the publishers now. We've got a meeting later this week to see if we can get a pre-order link, just like a one-page website. We can go on it, click it, pre-order it, and then you'll get the book once I've finished it, basically. Which the book will be finished in the next couple of weeks, and then it's got to go through copy, proofreading, edit, layout, the artwork for the cover. That's all will be done. So the book should be tangibly available to hold in your hand come May. But if people want to,
that's so exciting.
I mean, the original idea, the idea behind it was, I'm going to die. I'd like to get down on paper what I've been through in my life for Lisa. That was the idea behind it. So I started scribbling or writing it for Lisa, and then I shared a couple of extracts on the Bowel page, and people seemed to really, really resonate with it. And there was a huge response and a huge amount of engagement. So then I sort of shared a few more extracts, and people were saying, you have to get this published, you have to turn it into a book, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And then speaking to publishers, they were then really keen, and there was a lot of engagement there. And out of it just being a diary of my life for Lisa, it's now turned into what will be, providing I don't die unexpectedly and don't finish it, will be a tangible book come the spring, which is just amazing.
That's absolutely incredible. Well, you said a few minutes ago that you wanted to achieve more while you had cancer than you did before. I think you're doing a really good job of that.
It's been insane. So we've built our house, we're writing a book, we've got Tittle on the go. Obviously, we've got the fantastic community on the Bowel page, which is obviously the foundation of everything. That's kind of the most important bit. I'd lose all of it if it meant I could just keep that, the foundation of the community that we've built there, because it's so useful. And it's a point of reference as well. I had people message me saying, I've just been diagnosed and I've spent the last 10 hours in bed watching every single video you've done since back in April, and I've got so much information about chemotherapy, diagnosis, self-advocacy, Avastin, which they'd never even heard of because it was never even offered, because it's not funded. And it's amazing to think that even when I do die, that page will be left as a point of reference for people embarking on the journey who can
hold them all the way.
Yeah, can go right back to the beginning, and they can watch as the journey has progressed or not progressed. Or that's the most important thing to me, is the community on that Instagram page, because it's been amazing. It's been uplifting, and I hope that people have found it useful and interesting and informative.
I think they absolutely have. For anyone that doesn't follow you, which they definitely will, it's at Bowelbro on Instagram, but we will link it anyway.
Cool.
In our write-up. So thank you so much for being so open and honest and coming on here and talking to us. It's been incredible, and you are incredible. And thank you for everything that you're doing for the community.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. We'll speak soon. Bye.
Bye.
Have you seen the new Ostique skins yet? Ostique skins are revolutionary ostomy pouch covers that were created to make the wearer feel confident, sexy and powerful in all of life's moments. From moments of intimacy to lounging by the pool, conquering a workout or simply heading out to lunch, skins have you covered. Even better, they're compatible with all major colostomy and ileostomy bags. Ostique skins are available in a range of colours and skin tones, and they're made from a revolutionary material that's completely waterproof, high quality, soft and comfortable. Skins are easy to use, even with reduced dexterity, and they work with both closed and drainable bags. Plus, skins are also environmentally friendly and vegan. There are 4 bundles available to buy now, and you can also purchase individual skins. Head to ostique.co.uk to find out more.